Hey, this is Ross.
Ross, what's happening, man?
I'm actually walking towards the ocean in Santa Monica, and it's awesome out.
Oh,
That's what's
man,
going on.
that is amazing.
Yeah, life is pretty dang good.
Yeah, I appreciate you calling in, man.
Yeah, no problem.
So just to paint the picture for you, I was a kid out here in Boise, Idaho, building model cars in my room, listening to the first Korn album, and just connecting so much with the lyrics and the emotions of it all. And so for years, I really wanted to talk to the man, who brought that to the surface. So it means a lot to have you on the phone right now.
Thanks. I feel the same way about it. It's hard to take responsibility for an expression. It's like I got to witness it. That's for dang sure.
You grew up in Barstow, right?
I did, and it really formed an intense. It's intense living over there. Yeah, like everything is extreme. With the temperatures and the dirt bikes and the kids dying, and it was full on.
So what did you spend your early years doing out there?
Racing motocross and crashing and healing, and then having the bikes taken away, and then started playing guitar. And the guitar was like, I don't know, there was something where when I would fall asleep and I'd have these dreams where guitar and dirt bikes were kind of the same expression. They were the same thing in my dream in the weirdest way, because they both had like this full-on thing about them. And yeah, like somehow they're mysterious, they're scary. It's really it's interesting. Yeah.
Who were some of your influences then musically when you were growing up in Barstow?
Gosh, mainly like just 70s, the Beatles, and yeah.
At what point did you know you wanted to be a producer out of all that?
When I was working in a studio for the producer that did my thrash metal album, I was spending all my time in the studio, and all these voices would come up, and I would hear like what to do and what not to do, and I would just keep my mouth shut. And it was so intense, and I loved it. Like, and also I figured out that I can be in like multiple bands rather than just one, and so it was a perfect segue from when my band fell apart. I was playing with Dave McClain, and we were in a band together before, and it was just like, this is what I want to do.
So you just knew.
Oh my God, yeah. And then I went into a Bank of America before I decided to be a record producer, and it said occupation, and I wrote record producer on it on my checking, on a form, and that's how I became a record producer. I just wrote it down on a form and decided there, and I had this like real kind of experience, a death around letting go of the guitar and all of that, and it was an interesting night, and I was working for Blackie Lawless as a second engineer on a Wasp record, and that moment when I decided, like, all these tears were coming down my face in the middle of the night, and there was like this little Mexican bakery on the corner of Santa Monica and Vine, and I bought 2 flats of eggs, and I went to Blackie's roof on that corner and was chucking eggs at cars and sobbing.
Man, that's amazing. So many producers, can put down a heavy...
It's amazing!
Yeah. So, there's plenty of producers that can put down a heavy riff or cool beat, right? But not everybody can peel back the layers of, the real feelings like you can. When did you know that was something you were just completely gifted at?
I question completely gifted like every time, but what I do know about myself is that not one person on earth can do what I do better than what I do. And it's a a place to go when somebody really, really, really wants to feel what and express what they're writing on their lyric. And as a band that's willing to go there and just give, the focus is 100% on the spiritual tip, on the invisible tip, on the making the lyric the God, and going deep, and it's really fun, and it's invigorating, and it's super like whatever you thought the song was, it's pretty much completely different at the end of the process. And there's no needing for people outside of that situation to like it, so that it's like, this is me to the fullest, however weird or whatnot it is, and this is what you get.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And is there one of those albums that you connect with the most on a personal level?
I connect with all of them really well on a personal level. Like, we go deep into it, and and a lot of times I have to share my deep secret that people don't know about in order to open up the room and for people to, pertaining to the lyric, staying on subject and, with that purpose, and to really allow a freedom for people to feel that it's safe.
I used to watch the Korn Who Then Now documentary on VHS a lot.
Yeah.
And so, I've seen you there with, Jonathan Davis in tears, and I've heard the story about, throwing the burning candle during the Slipknot sessions and all that. What's the biggest extreme you've taken, I guess, to bring something out of an artist?
Being willing to feel and being so interested and willing to love the person in front of me so deeply that they're allowed to feel that feeling. And most people are terrified of that. Yep. It's not a real comfy place to sit. And for me, it's like seeing raw meat for a wolf. I love it.
So is there someone that was like a super hard egg to crack? And how did it feel to, once you broke through that barrier that you were trying to get through?
Everybody has their limits and their walls, and it's quite the most amazing, incredible feeling ever of all time to see somebody finally open up and surrender to whatever it is they're resisting. And I can't even explain how beautiful it is, how life-altering it is, and it's just beautiful. Like, there's nothing better, nothing, and it happens a lot.
And that said, too, how do you choose which projects you want to work on?
It needs to be cool, really, really cool, and it also needs to be authentic. That's it. Cool and authentic.
Yeah, that's simple.
And it doesn't have to be hit songs. It doesn't have to be like, oh, this is going to be big. It's not. It's never been that. Everything that went platinum, multi-platinum, and all that has been a fluke. And I think it's based from accidental hits, or songs that people can really open their hearts up to, and you get these lifelong fans. Like, At the Drive-In just got paid $1 million to play Coachella. They're an indie rock band. Glassjaw, they can pack out any Palladium-sized house now. It's because the dudes just opened up all the way. It wasn't a hit song, career bands,
So I host a show here, a local show, a new music show on Sunday nights on the radio station, and there's a ton of talent out there, everywhere in every city. I always tell people, everyone kind of started as a local band. What would you say to a band who's trying to take that next step?
If they're authentic and super cool, hit me up on Instagram. And if it tickles me in that best way, I can do it, I'll do it, and it doesn't matter. I'll find a way. If there seems no way, there'll be a way. And I'm always hungry for something that's going to be the one that either switches the genre or really knows how to, crack open that chest cavity. That's, oh my God. Yeah, I'm a slave for that. So,
have you had bands reach out to you before in like crazy ways that wanted to work with you?
Yeah, I get stuff. People come drop stuff at my house, or or maybe whatever studio, or it happens in all ways. Just different kinds of relationships, I have with people. Like, you never know. It can be through anything. It's bizarre. So that's why I like to say yes, to people and not push the real deals away, But I've not been going to shows as much, and I've started going out a little more and, just kind of seeing what's around LA. When the scene died so hard, I got in the habit of not going out like everybody else, but the internet's pretty awesome to, hear things. And
do you have a preferred environment for the recording process?
I love isolation. Yeah, okay. I think I prefer that. Yeah, because there's no distraction, and usually bands can't stand it. They hate it. It's like satanic almost. But I found that you get much better result when it's isolated in a weird way.
Kind of geeky stuff. I wanted to ask a couple, recording process questions for, any producer friends out there. Do you prefer small diaphragm condenser mics for overhead with rock bands? Does that make a difference for you, or?
It's weird. Like, I've used Royers or the condenser mics, or it's strange. It kind of depends on the drummer, the sticks, the actual cymbals. It could be like some nice tube mics or not. It could be cheapy things, but it's bizarre. You never know. You never know. You just got to keep switching them out, and as the craving is inside of you and you're feeling something, it's really important to just switch it up, and try things. Yeah, don't be scared to speak up,
And is there a special secret, I guess you could say, that you have to getting your guitars recorded, so fully, especially on the low end?
I would say the less mics. If you can get away with one mic, do that. The more phasing you have across the console, the smaller it gets. The more tracks you have going with everything, the smaller it gets. It just try to pretend like you're on tape, where you only have 24 tracks. That's it, and you'll have a better depth. And even better than that, go to tape.
Yeah.
And that something excellent happens, and it's hard to explain. And a lot of people are, lazy mixers and engineers. They don't like going to tape because it's a lot of work, but it's better. Yeah. I'm down for the extra work. I love it.
Yeah, it makes it worth it for sure. And then you touched on this a little bit. Yeah. I guess overall, has technology changed the landscape of what you do?
Obviously, it has. People are gridding their drums, and they're. Can you imagine John Bonham putting his drums, a take of his drums, on a grid and making it in time? He would fist fight you.
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix, play this cowbell, king, 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 king. Every metal video I see of studio stuff, I hear that ridiculous cowbell and these guys like playing along to it. And I'm just like, you're not playing music, you're doing math.
Yeah.
Sure, it sounds good because you can make a nice math equation, of course. Right. Anybody can. But what music is to me is a very deep, emotional, spiritual journey, where you can breathe in and breathe out, and you see something and your heart rate goes up, and then you see that it's okay, and then it comes back down and you're relieved. And like, you can't grid that out. You can't click track that out. It's ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, there's exceptions. There's geniuses out there that really smoke it, but for a rock band that's supposedly pulsing together, it doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Well, it takes those raw personal touches out of it too.
Yeah, the little golden nuggets, man.
Yeah.
Like, live for those things.
Do you feel, I guess, the true experience of listening to an album, front to back, like we always used to do on records, do you feel that's lost at all in the days of, people picking and choosing songs and singles and things like that?
Well, what people are doing is with our cell phones, we've become addicted to media. So our attention span is, it's addiction. So it doesn't sit very long. It needs to move around fidgety like a crackhead. So, it was much more patient. And as a listener, the average listener was much more patient and willing to really dive in. And also, when you pay for something, you respect it more, and so you give it that chance. And I remember listening to albums, buying them as a kid, and for a song that I really liked, and then the record would not be as good, and I would give it a chance, and I would, find something about it, and then there was this experience. Even though I didn't like the other songs, I had it like an experience, and there's no time for that now. People don't care, because we are all so full on addicted to our freaking phones. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
And to your point too, investing your money into it. Like, I used to ride my bike to the record store and spend all my hard-earned lawn mowing money, on an album. And the exciting part was taking it home, ripping it open, checking out the artwork, reading through the lyrics. I mean, that kind of was part of the whole experience.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's respect. You just have like this incredible respect for what you pay for.
Yeah.
It's real easy to just get something for free and chuck it because it's trash.
Yep.
Basically, it's disposable.
Is it just me, or has there been a trend of artists recording EPs instead of LPs nowadays?
Yeah, and in the 70s, bands would, like, there's some songs with like, half hour of music or less than a half hour, or like 9 songs or 7 songs, and then albums would be made, like some bands would do 2 albums a year, and it would be, a constant recording. God, what was it? Elton John made 3 albums a year for like 6 years. It was something insane when he first was doing it, and like all of that creativity was flying out of him, and basically it just didn't stop with that guy and his lyricist, and it was just, I don't think there's that level of genius out there right now doing that, from what I know. I'm sure there are, obviously, we're humans, but I think it's more about releasing something to stay relevant, to have stuff pop up online. It's that short attention span thing.
Yep.
It's not as art-based as it was in the 70s, that's for sure.
What do you do with your masters? Because obviously, dude, you know what happened with the Universal fire, right? I mean, were you affected by that?
I'm sure I was, but I don't know about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They didn't tell me. I saw it on there. I was like, oh, God, what's on that? What's in that locker? But it's all right. Whatever version is out in the world, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Like, ooh, listen to what happened. It's like, I mean, it's cool to hear tracks separated and stuff. Like, I have some Queen songs like Bohemian Rhapsody and some, Marvin Gaye, and it's like a crowd pleaser, but you know, the mixed version on the radio is where we draw those memories from, you know.
Yeah. So, and I have to ask this too, how magical is Indigo Ranch? I mean, I know that you've recorded a lot of albums there. There's a song about it.
Well, dude, like I went up there and did a demo with some kid before the Korn record, just, you know, survival thing, and that's how I found it. And then when it was time to do the Korn record, which was like, I don't know, 3 months later or something, I took the dudes up there and they were just so stoked. They were so happy to see it. But the main reason I wanted to record there is because there were Neil Young and Neil Diamond gold records on the wall, and Olivia Newton-John. I was just like, oh my God. Nick Cave did a record up there. The Go-Go's did We Got the Beat. And it was also super cool. Martin Sheen would come up and do voiceovers like during my sessions all the time, like on, you know, the owner would say, is it okay if Martin comes up today and does a 2-hour session? I'm like, yeah. So it was like, you know, it was magical. It was ridiculous. Like, I would stay up there most of the time, and I'd wake up, hike down this canyon, the canyon that you hear with that sound of that little piece of metal bouncing in a canyon on the Roots album.
Yep.
The first thing you hear, I would hike down that canyon, and then it was just all boulders, and it was pretty treacherous, but there would be like a little running stream, and there was a section where I was able to get in the water and then lay down and just fully connect, like deeply connect, and, you know, basically terrified for the day coming and asking nothingness for help. And then I would hike up and I'd be fresh as a daisy, and then that's when whoever was up there would start waking up. And oh yeah, dude, it was just ridiculous how great that was for me, you know. Incredible.
Can you tell the actual story of how the recording of that first Korn demo came about?
We recorded a demo with a different singer, and then we gave that to John. John came down and sang to one of those songs in a rehearsal, trying out for the band, and he was, after the old singer was kicked out, and he was so, you couldn't hear him sing because his voice was so quiet, but the way he was freaking the f*** out in the rehearsal room it was like, oh my God. And you could hear like something like wigged out, and it was like chills all over everybody's body. And it was like, oh my God, I'll never forget that. And he had this like Robert Smith makeup on, and, you know, that's my favorite band in the world. And I was instantly in love with him, with John. And then there were no other tryouts. It was just him, and that was it. We did a demo, and it was on some other demo thing I was doing, Gear. It was in this studio that this shady engineer used my name to put all the bills in my name because I was just a kid with no credit. And so when the bills didn't get paid, it ruined my credit, and it was all worth it. I think a year and a half later, we did the first record, and all the songs were revamped and redone. In the beginning, there was like a happy, kind of a silly, fun side to what the dudes were doing with David and James and Reggie, and then Brian joined, and then we made everything minor, everything dark, and Chaos AD was everybody's favorite record. So that it was a cross between new wave, because John was a full new waver coming in. He wasn't even as an industrial guy, a Nine Inch Nails guy, more so than a new waver. And so it had this like bizarre sensitivity and sweetness and like anti-tough guy thing and talent beyond belief. And yeah, it just all meshed together. Dark minor chords, Steve Vai guitars, 5-string bass. So it was a 4-string, but tuned down. And then this severely awesome, dark, gothy, new wavy singer, and it was just the best thing ever. We've oh my God, yeah. My life was Korn. It was all Korn, nothing else. It was like I felt as if I was in the band and I was booking shows, and at first, and then and when people started coming in and doing it professionally and doing it well and doing it right, and the band started picking up, and yeah, it was a trip.
And wasn't Definitely. It like funded by somebody had to stash money or something like that? Is that true? I had a friend who has a family from Humboldt. He's from Humboldt, and he sold weed, and the Crips came in and held him up, hogtied him naked, and the execution style, and made him made him open the safe, gave him the combination, and they took everything with a gun in his mouth and left him there, and then he called me up asking if I wanted to do something, start a label, or I asked him if he wanted to start a label after I heard he was, assaulted so gnarly, and he was like, yeah, and then I took him to rehearsal. This was with the old singer, so he was invested back then. That's crazy.
Yeah, you never know how it's going to happen. I was a super straight edge kid. Like, I never smoked a cigarette, nothing. And yeah, so it was bizarre for me to use weed money to, to do that. It was weird.
Yeah.
But awesome and super sweet, and I'm so grateful.
So on the next album, Life is Peachy, how do you produce a song, like Twist?
How did that come? Oh, he did I had him do a voice percussion on Chutes and Ladders. And I think with the voice percussion, I heard it on a disco song. Boogie Nights, I think, is the song. And so John has this ridiculous sense of rhythm, and he used to be able to do some television theme song with beatboxing and his voice at the same time. He goes doo 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 and have the beat, and it was really cool. So I had him do voice percussion, and I can't take credit for it. Maybe my story's off, but he made it better and advanced it. And we did it in ball tone. He took it to a whole other level. And then that voice percussion, he created something on his own that he was just probably, staying up all night, Huntington Beach style, just messing around. And he kept working on it because he was good at it. It was really cool. And then on the first record, in one of those sections where there's a lot of talking in between songs, and David goes, I want to put a twist on a record. And John used to twist his dread, and he was always twisting his dread out of nervousness or something. And he goes, yeah, I'll do twist. Want to hear it? And he goes with his dread. So that turned into the voice percussion, and I think the riff was maybe Brian. It was just ridiculous, or it just happened spontaneously, like right then. That song took about 3 or 4 minutes to write. It happened, and it was the intro of the album. That's the best thing on that whole record, I think.
Yeah, I love it. And looking back too, could you imagine, with those first 2 albums that things would be where they are now? I mean, could you even picture that?
Dudes like in their late 40s with a career that's lasted this long, we had no concept of living. I thought before the first record, I would literally pray and ask the universe to keep those guys safe because I was afraid one of them was going to die. I swear, every day, like I had this horrible feeling that something bad was going to happen to one of the dudes, and I don't know why, but it's a miracle. It's a miracle. They're so beautiful in their expression and how much they give to people. It's beyond belief.
And so I was just talking to LeJohn from Seven Dust about this recently, but how did you get involved with the Straight Up album?
I recorded the last Snot song ever. And Lynn and I were really, really good friends. And I could say he was like, it was bizarre. Like he was like the one guy out of the whole scene that wherever he was, like clockwork, he would call me up and we'd just have this super cool talk and hang and on the phone. And it was just, we were real friends, like deep, like really good friends, like a real one,
Mm-hmm.
like, and, that's how I was involved.
When you recorded the first Slipknot album, how do you handle, 9 guys in a band and they have keg drums and baseball bats and all these things? How do you kind of orchestrate that?
Well, in the beginning, everybody was straight edge. Like if anybody did drugs, even pot, they would be kicked out of the band. They were super hardcore with it, and so that made it super easy. There was no insanity. Even though they seemed crazy, they were very, very, very hungry and willing and super, super, just super willing and extremely talented. And all I had to do was create a loving, sweet environment, which was really easy and natural for me. And the creativity was just sparking everywhere. Like it was just constant amazingness. And I knew every take, if I started laughing, then we're keeping it. So it wasn't like people go, oh, the potted plant went flying through the air and all this, and Ross is so crazy, but that's not the way it was. It was all about slamming as hard as you possibly could to whatever the lyric was about, and having that guttural like laugh, like I cannot believe what I just felt. It was like I would just laugh. It was so massive and beautiful, and all you could do is laugh and or cry or whatever, just chills all over your body. It was like and so my job was to for sure bring an environment that allowed that to happen, and that's super rare. And I can kind of feel that there's not much laughter going on, in a lot of people's albums. But that invisible ingredient it's something, man. It's life altering, literally.
Is there a story behind what happened with Purity on that first Slipknot album? Because I remember buying the first one and then having to get like a different copy that had that song on it, I think.
Yep. That was it was a crime page, and we thought it was totally real. And it was this girl buried. They found her buried alive from a rainstorm that like washed mud into an air hole that some psycho put her in a box in the ground with an air hole. And then the crime story was this mentally disabled kid would go and record this girl, you know, telling her, tell me a story, sing a song for me. And it was just like this mentally disabled dude, like, you know, just talking to this hole in the ground. And he didn't know that she was captive. He couldn't have a concept. So the police recovered the recordings, and that's kind of how they found her, but she'd already died. And basically it was her begging the guy to tell somebody that she's there, trying to figure out a way to get him to, you know, help her when he wasn't mentally able to. And but about the time when you had to buy the other copy,
yeah.
It was a fake crime scene. Like somebody put it up online. It was all made up, and the pictures were it was all fake. And it cost me personally $100,000 because we used the girl's name and we used a soundbite of her voice, and the dude sued us. And yeah, $100,000 out of my pocket, and then the label paid another $100,000
for that one song.
Yep, and then they took the song off.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was like, God dang it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So with the first Soulfly record, one of my favorite records back when I was a kid, growing up with that one too, and was blown away by the fact he had guys like Fred Durst and Chino of Deftones and Clive and Burton, etc. How did it come about to bring all those guys together for that album?
There was a scene back then, man. Everybody just was, I mean, everybody loved Max and the dudes, and basically it was just a simple, oh, I'll call him, all right, or I want this, I want to get so-and-so here, all right. You know, it's like, Chino was always up there at the studio, though. Jeez, he sang on so many guest spots. Like, I was like, are you sure you want to get Chino? Everybody else did.
Yeah.
But he's always great, you know. The dude is so unique and awesome. Yeah, that's how it worked. It was just everybody knew each other.
Do you have a stance on when an artist comes in and they are dead set on doing a cover song? You know, obviously like Limp Bizkit with Faith.
Yeah. You know, what's crazy is those guys, like, I was like, I don't want to do that song. And I don't think that's cool to do a cover song on this. I want it just to be you guys, you know? And they're like, oh, no, man, people love it when we play it live. Everybody loves it so much. I'm like, all right, cool. And then the performance in the studio was so slamming. It was just like, geez. And then there was this DJ tone. I had to go through these guitar pedals, and somehow we got it to where, I don't know, like this mix of things, and I don't even know what it is. And it was just magically perfect for that song, and it was so freaking on fire, man. It's like, oh my God. I remember playing it for this folk artist, this girl that I knew way back then when the album came out, and I was like kind of scared to play it because it's, you know, so extreme, and I remember her just saying, oh, this is really good. I'm like, really? I was like, oh my God, the band was so right. So, and then the record went gold, and then they released that Faith song after it went gold, and it went platinum in like, a few days later because of Faith.
Yeah.
It was just like, Jesus, what the hell?
Speaking of Limp Bizkit, you're still, I think, listed under the credits, right, for the new album. And I have to ask, are the damn disco elephants ever going to stampede? Because I know it's been going on for a long time now.
I heard this from people, but not from the band.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't do anything with it. I mountain bike with Wes, and we send messages to Fred through Wes, Fred and I. And also I'm deeply, deeply connected and love those guys with all my heart. Always will. Yeah. So in that way, I'm involved. They've got my support. That's for dang sure.
And so are there any new artists out there on your radar right now that we should check out or know about that we might not?
There was this really cool thing that I was looking at, but not working on. It's a band called Girl Pusher. It's I went there with Sonny Skrillex, and I don't know if he's going to do something with them. I was, but they opted out, and so I'm not really sure what they're going to do. But it's just this insanely awesome rugrat girl who's just so badass, and she's from Bakersfield as well. And then this DJ kid, he does like electronic beats, but he also plays drums. And they're really, really special. Yeah. And this artist I did, Amigo the Devil, is really cool. I think some European metal magazine said it's heavier. It's actually acoustic and voice, like singing songs about kind of like I don't know, just self-reflection and serial killers, but they say it's heavier than the heaviest black metal band, and I'm pretty proud of that.
Nice.
Yeah, there's stuff. I just did a song with Touche Amore. It's more of the at the drive-in Glassjaw world, kind of hardcore. I love things that are unique, passionate, and badass, and it doesn't have to be a big band or anything. I love doing this. It's so cool.
So you mentioned The Cure being your favorite band. What does that feel like when you basically get to work with your favorite band? I mean, is that something you ever would have dreamed of?
No. It feels like, for me, it was I was on such a high the whole time. I got Steve Evans to engineer for me, and we were in Europe, and we were recording in Olympic for 6 months. And I remember walking to a coffee shop after dinner while we were in the studio real quick, and we were depressed because we only had a month left. Like, we were just, it was when I discovered that no matter what, if you're elated and inspired and truly happy, there's no such thing as fatigue or tired. The sleep was like probably 3.5 hours every day. And then Evans and I would go to the gym in the morning and get our cardio and stuff in, and then have breakfast and start all over. And Robert would, end, like, he would be finished at like 6 6:30 in the morning, 7. So we would start every day. Probably, I think it was like 12:30, and then go all the way to 7 a.m. A lot of days, like months, and it was elation to the max, and I knew whatever the voice was saying inside of me, no matter how brash or gnarly it was, I knew I owed it to all the people that loved the band as much as me and the fans, and that I had to be authentic in what I was doing, whether it be what people liked or not. It's none of my business, but what my business was is to make sure that those guys were alive and knowing what they are is the fucking Cure and my favorite band of all time, and they need to be that. And there was some rub with maybe a couple band members, but with Robert it was 100% in sync. I was saying everything I think that he couldn't to those guys, because he when somebody like him says something, I remember the fire starter, the dude that just passed away, was partying in the studio one night and talking about his drugs and how cool this mix of this drug was with that drug, and Robert went up to him and told him to leave and said something else, and the guy was crushed. I was like, whoa, that's like the power of respect and God holiness. It was like, holy fucking shit, man. I am so glad I'm not on the other end of any kind of criticism from him.
Yeah.
And he was the coolest, most amazing dude probably that I've ever worked with in my life. He's just the fucking coolest, man. Like, I couldn't imagine anybody being better than what I would hope my musical idol would be, and he is. Oh my God, there's a reason everybody loves him.
I've had a little taste of that too, because I'm always worried when I meet, we have every band ever come through here, and I always fear I'm going to meet one of my idols and just it's going to crush me because they're going to,
ruin it.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's a worry every single time, especially, I met the Korn guys a number of times and they couldn't have been cooler. But that was one of those things growing up. I had the posters on my wall, the T-shirts, and I was like, I hope they're cool, good guys, otherwise it's just going to be crushing. And
yeah. Oh God. Johnny Rotten lives like 15 houses away from me, and this little girl, I was walking by his house, and this little girl was staring inside of his gate and looking in his house, and him and his wife came out, and they were like, "Oh, look at you. You're just the most sweet, beautiful thing. Oh." And the girl was like, had no idea who she was talking to, obviously. She was like 3. Her parents didn't know who the hell he was. And he was like this sweet old English man, like in his pajamas. And I was just like, oh, God. I wish everybody could see that.
Yeah, because I've actually become fans of bands that were just that cool and that real, and
Yeah, everything we hope for.
Exactly. It's made me become fans of bands I didn't know I would, just based on that alone, outside of the music part of it.
Oh God, yeah.
Talking about the Cure and everything you've done in your career, is there still a unicorn band out there or an artist you're still just dying to work with?
I have to say that it's the next unknown that just moves me to my core. After the Cure, I spent a decade racing dirt bikes and motocrossing my face off and breaking. I broke 27 bones, and it was just like there was so many highs and so many extremes that I think I became addicted to that level of danger, and I had a live-in mechanic, and so it was like I kind of threw away what I built in a weird way, but the industry was changing, and I was, but what my point is a new band with new thoughts and ideas, and that ravenous hunger to give, to express, to be alive and through the music, and actually lives and breathes like a fucking lifer for music with passion. And that to me is my dream, and so far I've been able to relive that dream over and over, and I'm always there to support that one. Yeah. Always. And I feel like that the Amigo the Devil thing I did is that it went from it's kind of blowing up in its world, and but just something that I've not heard, like what, somebody that isn't afraid to use their real voice, and somebody that is totally about being authentic in what they're doing, and not knowing why, just they have to. There's no choice. And to me, that's the milk of the gods. That's everything. Oh my God. Yeah, that's my dream.
And as you're saying that too, so offline later on, I'm going to send you over some stuff if you want, because there's, we get music that comes through here all the time. I deal with all the local bands here in Boise, and I'll definitely, if you want new music.
Oh man. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Anything that you feel, I'm so there. It's my passion, for sure. I'm not known as the go-to guy that old bands use. I find new things, or I do new things, or whatever, through people like you. It comes.
That's my biggest thing too. Is there's so many bands out there that have so much talent, but they haven't been discovered, or they're trying to break through that barrier and they can't. And I get frustrated because I'm like, someone needs to hear this. Someone needs to do something with this. And so, that's why I have a show special for that, where I can put those bands on the air and give them that, exposure. And it means the world to them, because they're getting just a little bit, of an exposure. And I kind of do it in the way of like old school radio, when you couldn't sneak peek or get a leak of a song. Like, you had to listen to the radio to hear the premiere of the song. And so I still, they'll send me music before they even put it out on their Facebook page, or, because everyone wants to rush things out nowadays. And these guys will, they'll make sure that I get it first, so we can do a premiere, and it can be special. They can huddle around a boombox at home and they can hear it on the radio. And
my God.
Yeah. It's a really just special thing.
What a dream gig. Holy crap.
Yeah. And so it's amazing for me, because I grew up with music and in the local scene. And so to kind of, it's almost like giving back to it in a way, but I still get geeked out about it, and that's why just talking to you, I'm like, I get like goosebumps just talking about it.
Oh my God. Yes. Isn't it so much better than just hearing another great version of the same band? It's like, okay, this is really cool, but like every headlining band throughout the festivals all over, they're all freaking my age. It's like, come on, what's going on? Like, the badasses used to be at least in their 20s, and those days are gone. And dude, I'd love to. Yeah, it's time. Yeah. Times are changing.
And there's, like I said, there's a ton of stuff out there. One of the biggest compliments I ever get is when somebody hears a song over the radio and they're like, that was a local band? They're from around here? I'm like, yeah, there's talent out there. Yeah. You just have to find it. And so, so I go around turning over a lot of rocks to find those things. And so that's why I was asking, if you're wanting to see new stuff.
100%. Yeah, you have did you see my phone number when I called?
No, it just pops up as your name.
I'll send it to you so you have me. And love it.
A couple other things I was going to ask you is just, One, are you still playing music yourself?
I guess playing music for me, working with musicians. So like working on artists is my guitar. And, of course I can grab it and say something like this, and I'll be kind of violent with the guitar or something, or, hit a note or something and kind of freak it out and then hand it back to them. That's as far as I go with playing. I think as a player, my ear falls apart and I become too judgmental.
Yep.
And as a listener, I'm able to be super patient and understanding and know that there's something great there and dig. It's a whole different thing. It's difficult as a musician in that I get in my own way.
Yep.
So I don't know. Maybe I've worked through it since all this time has passed, since the 80s. Yeah, I really, really, really enjoy and love what I do, and I'm very satisfied with it, and there's no need for my ego or whatever to say, hey, check me out, look what I did,
Totally.
It's kind of...
With all your years doing it, I mean, what continues to motivate you? Is it finding those new bands or getting in the studio?
Oh, dude, it's that breathless feeling of when the slam is happening. It's just like, it's like drinking water, or when you're dying of thirst, or, it's just, to me, it's proof that God exists when that invisible presence of dude slamming, and it just permeates through my core. It's incredible. That's timeless. It's forever. It's infinite. And every time somebody gives everything they have, and it's recorded, and you play it back, it gives everything he has every time you play it.
Yeah.
So billions of plays after, and then you play it again, same level. So I can put on Norma Jean, something off of, what's that Blueprint song, or there's stuff that just like tears start coming out of my eyes, like I'm like, oh my God. That song Motel, the White Locust, I think it is, on Glassjaw's first record, tears come to my eye. I'm like, it's like, holy there's these moments that just rock me to my core as if it's happening in front of me all over again. So that's what I love about true, authentic expression. It just never stops, man.
And so I have to tell you, man, you literally were like the first producer I ever learned, by name. And
whoa.
Yeah. And your work is kind of what taught me how the importance of a good producer, and what the role they play in everything. So really, just for that, I just want to say, thank you for what you've done.
Whoa,
for
thank
music.
You. Wow.
And then also, thank you for taking the time to talk to me about all of it.
Of course. And just so you know, like, I've said this a bunch of times before, to bands or whoever, it's like, I am nothing without you. And together we're something, and that's the most important part of all of this is we need each other, and it's really, really cool.